In 1991, Michael Jordan was ready to quit basketball forever. The pressure, the critics, the constant losses to the Pistons, he was done. That's when a homeless man named Charlie changed his life with a single conversation outside Chicago Stadium. 30 years later, Michael is worth $2 billion, and Charlie is still homeless, sleeping under the same bridge where they first met. But Charlie doesn't know that the broken young man he helped that night became a legend. And when Michael discovers Charlie is still alive, what he does next will shock everyone who hears this story. Michael Jordan sat in his Chicago penthouse office staring out at the city skyline. It was March 15, 2023, exactly 32 years since the night that almost ended his basketball career forever. He picked up his phone and scrolled through local news, something he did every few months, always searching for the same thing, or rather, the same person. His assistant Patricia knocked on the door. "Mr. Jordan, your 3 o'clock is here." "Cancel it," Michael said without looking away from his phone. "I need to take a drive." Patricia looked confused. Michael never canceled meetings, especially important ones. "Sir, this is the Nike Executive Board. They've flown in from Oregon specifically to—" "Tell them something came up. Personal business." 20 minutes later, Michael was driving his black SUV through downtown Chicago, following a route he'd taken hundreds of times over the past 3 decades. He turned onto Lower Wacker Drive and slowed down as he approached the bridge at Columbus. This was where it all started, where everything changed. But first, let's go back to 1991, when Michael Jordan was the most miserable superstar in sports. March 15th. 1991, 11:47 p.m. 28-year-old Michael Jordan walked out of Chicago Stadium feeling like a complete failure. The Bulls had just lost to the Detroit Pistons, 102-89, their 4th straight loss to Detroit that season. The same Pistons who had physically brutalized him for 3 years running. The same Pistons who made him question whether he was tough enough to win at the highest level. In the locker room after the game, Michael had sat with his head in his hands while reporters fired questions at him like bullets. "Michael, do you think you'll ever get past Detroit? Are you strong enough mentally to lead this team to a championship? Some people are saying you're just a scoring machine who can't win the big one." Each question felt like a knife to the heart. Michael had given everything to basketball, his body, his youth, his relationships. And for what? To be called a loser on national television? Walking to his car in the empty parking garage, Michael made a decision. He was done. Done with the criticism, done with the pressure, done with being called soft. Tomorrow he would tell Jerry Krause and Phil Jackson that he was retiring. Let someone else deal with the impossible expectations. But as he reached his Ferrari, Michael realized he'd left his keys in the locker room. The parking garage was locked up tight for the night. He was stuck. "Great," he muttered, sitting down on a concrete barrier. Perfect end to a perfect night. That's when he heard a voice from the shadows. "You look like someone just told you the world was ending." Michael looked up to see a man emerging from behind a support column. He was probably in his 50s, wearing multiple layers of clothes despite the March warmth. His face was weathered but kind, and his eyes held a wisdom that seemed too deep for someone living on the streets. "Just having a rough night," Michael said, not really wanting to talk but too polite to ignore the man. "Yeah, I saw the game on the TV through the sports bar window," the homeless man said, settling down on another concrete barrier about 10 feet away. "Y'all got beat pretty good." Michael's defenses went up immediately. The last thing he needed was some random guy telling him how badly he'd played. "Look, I don't really want it to—" "Hold up, young man," the homeless man said, raising his hand. "I ain't here to criticize you. Hell, I've been watching you play since you got to Chicago. You're something special." Michael looked at him skeptically. "Special? We just got destroyed by the Pistons, again." "So? You think Magic never lost to Bird when they was young? You think Ali never got knocked down before he became the greatest?" The homeless man leaned forward. "See, that's the problem with y'all young athletes today. You think success is supposed to be immediate. You think champions are born, not made." "Easy for you to say," Michael shot back, immediately regretting his harsh tone. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" "Nah, you're right. It is easy for me to say. Know why? Because I got nothing to lose. When you got nothing to lose, you see things clearer." Michael studied the man's face. There was something about him, a calmness, a certainty. that was magnetic. "What's your name?" Michael asked. "Charlie. Charlie Washington. And you're Michael Jordan, though you probably wish you weren't right about now." Michael almost smiled. "You got that right." Charlie stood up and walked closer. "Can I tell you something, Michael? Something I learned the hard way?" Michael nodded. "Quitting is permanent, but losing ain't." The words hit Michael like lightning. He stared at Charlie, waiting for more. "See, I used to have dreams too," Charlie continued. "Had a wife, kids, a job at the steel mill. Thought I had it all figured out. Then the plant closed down, wife left, kids stopped talking to me. I had a choice, keep fighting or give up." Charlie gestured to his worn clothes. "Obviously, I chose wrong, but you know what I learned living out here for 15 years? Every single day, I get another chance to fight back. Every sunrise is a new opportunity." He looked directly into Michael's eyes. "But quitting? That's it. Game over. No more chances, no more opportunities. You quit tonight, and 30 years from now, you'll be wondering what might have been." Michael felt something stirring in his chest. Not quite hope, but maybe the memory of hope. "The Pistons are tough," Charlie said. "Tougher than you right now, but tough ain't permanent either. You get tougher, you get stronger, you get smarter." "What if I'm not good enough?" Michael asked quietly. Charlie laughed, a warm sound that echoed through the empty garage. "Son, I've been watching basketball for 40 years. I've seen Kareem, Magic, Bird, Dr. J, all the greats. And I'm telling you right now, you got something none of them had." "What's that?" "Fire. Real fire. The kind that burns so hot it either destroys you or transforms you into something legendary." Charlie started walking back toward the shadows. "Question is, which one you gonna let it do?" "Wait," Michael called out. "How do I know you're right? How do I know it's worth it to keep going?" Charlie turned back with a smile. "You don't. That's what makes it faith instead of certainty. But I'll tell you this. Quitters never have to wonder what might have been, because they already know nothing." And with that, Charlie disappeared into the darkness, leaving Michael alone with his thoughts. 20 minutes later, security found Michael still sitting there. They unlocked the garage and let him get his keys, but by then, Michael had made his decision. He wasn't quitting. Not tonight, not ever. What Charlie didn't know was that his 7 words, "Quitting is permanent, but losing ain't," would become Michael Jordan's personal motto. Charlie didn't know that 12 months later, Michael would lead the Bulls to their first NBA championship. He didn't know about the 6 titles, the global fame, the billion-dollar empire that would follow. Charlie had no idea that his few minutes of wisdom had changed basketball history. And for 30 years, Michael had been trying to find him to say thank you. Present day, March 15th, 2023. Michael parked his SUV under the Columbus Drive Bridge and got out. This was his monthly ritual, driving to the spot where Charlie had saved his career and hoping against hope that he might run into him again. For 3 decades, Michael had hired private investigators, posted on social media, even offered a $100,000 reward for information about Charlie Washington. Nothing. It was like the man had vanished into thin air. Michael walked to the exact spot where they'd sat that night in 1991. He closed his eyes and could still hear Charlie's voice. "Quitting is permanent, but losing ain't." A rustling sound from nearby bushes caught his attention. Michael turned to see a shopping cart emerging from behind a concrete pillar, pushed by a figure wrapped in several layers of clothing despite the warm spring day. The man looked up, and Michael's heart stopped. It was Charlie. 30 years older, more weathered, but definitely Charlie. "Charlie?" Michael called out. The homeless man squinted at him suspiciously. "Do I know you?" Michael walked closer, his heart pounding. "It's Michael Jordan. We met here 30 years ago." Charlie's face showed no recognition. "Sorry, friend, don't remember. You got any change?" Michael realized with a sinking heart that Charlie didn't remember their conversation, didn't remember saving his career, didn't even remember him. "Charlie, it's me, March 15th, 1991, right here. You told me quitting is permanent, but losing ain't." Charlie scratched his head. "Look, man, I meet a lot of people. Can't remember everyone. You gonna help me out or not?" Michael pulled out his wallet and handed Charlie a $20 bill. "Charlie, I've been looking for you for 30 years. 30 years? Charlie laughed. Must have been some conversation. What'd I do, give you winning lottery numbers? You saved my life. Charlie studied Michael's face more carefully. You sure we met? Because I definitely would have remembered meeting somebody who looks like they got money. Michael's heart was breaking. The man who had changed everything for him didn't remember a single second of their life-changing encounter. Charlie, where have you been all these years? Here and there, streets mostly, shelters when it gets real cold. Charlie's expression softened slightly. You seem like a good guy, but I really don't remember you. Sorry. Michael realized that pursuing the memory was only frustrating Charlie. Instead, he decided to focus on the present. Are you okay? Do you have a place to stay? I get by. Got my spots. Charlie gestured to his shopping cart. Everything I need right here. What about family? Friends? Charlie's face darkened. Had a family once. Long time ago. They probably think I'm dead by now. Might be better that way. Michael felt his throat tighten. Charlie, what if I told you that our conversation 30 years ago changed my entire life? What if I told you that because of what you said to me, I became successful beyond my wildest dreams? Charlie looked skeptical. What kind of successful? I play basketball, professional basketball. Yeah, you any good? Michael almost laughed. I did okay, won some games. Well, good for you, kid. Always nice to see young people make something of themselves. The irony was crushing. Charlie had no idea he was talking to the most famous basketball player in history. No idea that his words had inspired 6 NBA championships, 5 MVP awards, and a legacy that would last forever. But what happened next would change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. Michael made a decision. Charlie, I want to help you. I don't take charity. It's not charity, it's paying back a debt. Charlie looked confused. What debt? I told you I don't remember meeting you. Maybe not, but I remember meeting you, and I owe you everything. Michael pulled out his phone. Charlie, I'm going to make some calls. I'm going to get you a place to stay, some medical care, some help. Why would you do that for a stranger? Because you're not a stranger to me. You're the reason I never gave up. Charlie shook his head. Look, I appreciate the offer, but I've been on these streets for over 30 years. This is my life now. It doesn't have to be. You don't understand. I got nothing to offer the world. I'm just an old man with bad memories and worse habits. Michael knelt down so he was eye level with Charlie. 30 years ago, you told me that every sunrise is a new opportunity. You told me that tough ain't permanent. You told me that champions aren't born, they're made. Charlie's eyes widened slightly. I said all that. You saved my life with those words. For the first time, Charlie really looked at Michael. What did you say your name was? Michael Jordan. Charlie's jaw dropped. The Michael Jordan? The basketball player? The same one. Holy, I gave advice to Michael Jordan? The best advice I ever received. Charlie sat down heavily on a nearby concrete barrier. I don't remember any of this. That's okay. I remember for both of us. Michael sat down next to him. Charlie, I've been worth over $1 billion for years now. I've got everything a person could want. But for 30 years, I've had this debt hanging over my head, the debt I owe to you. I don't want your money. Good. Because I'm not offering money. I'm offering something better. What's that? A chance to matter again. A chance to help people like you helped me. Michael pulled up something on his phone. I've been planning this for years, waiting for the day I found you. I want to start a foundation, the Charlie Washington Foundation for Second Chances. Charlie stared at the phone screen showing architectural plans for a state-of-the-art homeless services center. What is this? A place where people who've lost everything can get a real second chance. Not just a bed and a meal, but job training, mental health services, family reunification programs, everything. Michael looked at Charlie intently. And I want you to help me run it. Me? I don't know anything about running foundations. But you know about surviving. You know about hope when everything seems hopeless. You know about giving advice that changes lives. Charlie was quiet for a long time, staring at the plans on the phone. Why would you name it after me? I'm nobody. Charlie, You're the most important person in my life story after my parents. Without you, there would be no Michael Jordan, the basketball player. There would be no championships, no legacy, nothing. I really said something that powerful? You told me that quitting is permanent, but losing ain't. Those 7 words built an empire. Charlie started crying, not sad tears, but tears of amazement. I haven't mattered to anybody in so long, I forgot what it felt like. You've mattered to me every single day for 30 years. Michael stood up and extended his hand. So what do you say, Charlie? Ready for your second chance? Charlie looked at Michael's outstretched hand, then at his shopping cart full of his worldly possessions, then back at Michael. You really think an old homeless man can help run a foundation? I think the man who saved Michael Jordan's career can do anything he sets his mind to. Charlie wiped his eyes and took Michael's hand. Then let's change some lives. 6 months later, the Charlie Washington Foundation for Second Chances opened its doors in downtown Chicago. The ribbon-cutting ceremony drew hundreds of people, including many of Michael's former teammates and coaches. But the most important person there was Charlie himself, wearing a new suit and standing proudly next to Michael at the podium. A lot of you are wondering how a homeless man ended up with his name on a foundation, Charlie said into the microphone, his voice strong and clear. Truth is, I don't remember the conversation that started all this, but Michael Jordan remembers, and that's enough for me. He gestured to the beautiful new building behind them. 30 years ago, I apparently told someone that quitting is permanent, but losing ain't. I don't remember saying it, but I'm glad I did. Because look what grew from those 7 little words. Charlie turned to Michael. They say we don't remember every person we meet, but some people remember us. Michael Jordan could have forgotten about some random homeless man he met in a parking garage, but he didn't. He spent 30 years looking for me, 30 years wanting to say thank you. His voice grew emotional. That tells you everything you need to know about the kind of man he is. Success didn't change him. Money didn't change him. Fame didn't change him. He remembered where he came from and who helped him along the way. Charlie looked out at the crowd. This foundation isn't really about me. It's about remembering that everybody matters. Every conversation matters. Every person you meet might be fighting a battle you know nothing about. He paused, collecting himself. 30 years ago, I'd given up on life. I was just existing, not living. But apparently, even when I had nothing left, I still had something to give. Hope to a young man who felt like quitting. Today, we're opening this place for people like I was. People who think they have nothing left to offer the world. But everybody has something to give. Sometimes it's just 7 words. Sometimes it's a listening ear. Sometimes it's believing in someone when they can't believe in themselves. Charlie's final words rang out clearly. Quitting is permanent, but losing ain't. And neither is being forgotten as long as there are people in this world willing to remember. The crowd erupted in applause. Michael wiped tears from his eyes as he hugged the man who had saved his career without even knowing it. In the first year alone, the Charlie Washington Foundation helped over 500 homeless individuals find permanent housing and employment. But more importantly, it reminded the world that everyone has value, everyone has something to contribute, and everyone deserves a second chance. Charlie lived in a beautiful apartment near the foundation where he worked every day as director of peer support. He never regained his memory of that night in 1991, but he created thousands of new memories, helping others find their way back to hope. Michael visited the foundation every week, always remembering that his billion-dollar empire started with 7 words from a man who thought he had nothing left to give. Sometimes the most important conversations in our lives happen when we least expect them, with people we might never see again. But if we're lucky, really lucky, sometimes we get the chance to find those people and thank them. Sometimes we discover that the person who saved our life was actually saving their own life too, one conversation at a time. And sometimes, 30 years later, 2 men who met in the darkness of a parking garage get to stand together in the light, proving that hope is never really lost. It's just waiting for the right moment to be remembered. Charlie Washington never remembered saving Michael Jordan's career, but he spent the rest of his life doing what he'd always done, reminding people that tomorrow is another chance to fight back, that tough ain't permanent, and that quitting is the only real failure. The man who thought he was nobody became somebody who mattered to everybody he met. Because that's what happens when we remember that every person has value, every conversation has power, and every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the potential to change the world.